Today is April the 8th, 2021, and we are here with Doyle
Corder.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Doyle Corder.
Yeah.
Who's running for AISD Board of Trustees.
Yes, sir.
Doyle, welcome.
Thank you.
Let's start off by telling the voters a little bit about who you are and how you ended up on the school board, and then we'll get into what the school board does.
Yeah, so thanks for having me here. This is a great setup, and I love that we can get the message out to so many people through this setting. I am Doyle Corder. I'm a minister at Southwest Church of Christ here in Amarillo. I've been here for about 20 years. I'm a pretty much lifelong West Texan, panhandle of Texas. I hate to admit, I'm the only one in my family that wasn't born in Texas. I was born in Kansas, but as soon as I could walk, we got to Texas, So I grew up in Lubbock, went to Lubbock Christian where I met my wife, and then we both transferred to Texas Tech University where we both have degrees in music education, and we loved our time at Texas Tech and ended up in 2000 moving here for a job in ministry with Southwest Church of Christ, and I've led and worked there and served there for those 20 years. My wife, after we moved here, got a job with AISD teaching music at South Georgia Elementary, where she's been for the last 20 years. Teaching there and leading there, and she's great. She's one of our best teachers, in my humble opinion. And since the very beginning, all three of our kids, we have three children that all grew up in Amarillo ISD. The last one graduated in the famed class of 2020 that had to go through all the 2020 stuff and graduate once online and once in person. So he's my last one getting out. My other two graduated from Amarillo High and are doing great things now in their jobs, and we're very well prepared for life beyond high school, for life in college for them, prepared them to do well in college. Early on, I started volunteering anywhere I could in our community, especially in our schools. We have a passion for education, and especially in music. That's where I'm gifted. That's what my music, what my degree's in, what my passion's in. So I served on the PTA board at an elementary. I even was president of a PTA board, of an elementary PTA board. I don't know if you've ever done that, but I feel like I've served my time doing that kind of thing. And it was great. It was great. It was fun to be able to ask the questions that, what do we need? What do we need to do? I've served as helping out on field trips and leading sing-alongs at schools and teaching voice lessons and percussion lessons and going on outdoor education trips. I've done that for the last 19 years, going to outdoor education with a bunch of fifth graders out at Cedar Canyon and just being with fifth graders for a day or a day and a night. I've been a clinician for our choirs. And then in 2001, the Amarillo High School band staff asked me to join them on a part-time basis and teach percussion, especially in the fall in drumline, what most people know at drumline or the marching arts. And so I joined them first kind of on a volunteer, and then they had asked me to come on more as a part-time, spending supposed to be a couple hours a day there, but it turned into a lot more than a couple hours a day, and Friday nights and bus rides and all those kind of things, which I loved. I love being in the classroom. I love working with students I'm doing a wedding for one of my students next summer. So I built relationship with those students, but also with parents and with the faculty there at Amarillo High School, and then around the district with other band directors and choir directors that I've worked with. So last year, to cut to the chase maybe, 2019, in November of 2019, the board spot came open from someone who had resigned, and Christy and my wife and I prayed about it and thought this might be the time. This is when our son's fixing to move out. We're going to be empty nesters. We can give more time to the district and to something that we think is so important. So I applied for that, not knowing if I would get it, and not really. I cared, but if I didn't get it, I was going to serve some other way. I'm going to find a way to serve. But I interviewed with the current board, and they selected me, and it's been difficult. It's been a difficult year for all of us, but it's been, I dare say, fun to serve in that kind of way, because for me, it's fun when I'm using my gifts that I think are pretty unique in some situations to serve and to make a difference in something that I think is so important. That's education. Education will change the world. I mean, that's what you're doing here. You're educating people, and it'll change the world. So I've served since I came on the board in, I think I was anointed or whatever they call it, on the board. Anointed is not the right word, in January, and then COVID hit, and we've led through COVID, and we've, I think, done some great things through COVID, through a very hard time, and had some visionary things happen to look to the future, and we can talk about that more if you want to. But so I'm looking for reelection because I want to continue to do that for at least 4 more years, and who knows beyond that.
Well, very good. So what do you see as some of the challenges that the AISD board is facing now that you want to help solve?
Yeah, so there's probably 3 that stand out to me. I would say, 3 that stand out to me in challenges. First, COVID is, I hate to keep on going back to COVID or the pandemic, but the time that we had in 2020, in the end of the 1920 school year, where we were virtual only, shut down, and learning how to do it on the fly, that combined with just the missed class time, even when we were face-to-face, the missed class time, we have what many are calling, Sam Holder, one of our administrators in ELAR, calls the COVID cliff, where we see decline in learning over that time. And that is a big challenge for us to catch up and get our students where they need to be in pre-K through 12, so that they're prepared for the next level and the next level, and then for graduation to go on to either a job or college or military. So that is something we are addressing currently. And one way we've addressed that currently is we're face-to-face in learning since September, where if you look across the nation, hardly anyone was face-to-face in learning. But even the state, like 3 weeks ago, I think it was, that I heard from TASB that it was about 50% face-to-face. 50% of our students in the state of Texas were face-to-face, and the others were still virtual, and the learning is just not as good when you're virtual. Mm-hmm. We were at 80% at least from September 1st, and we're figuring it out with our hero teachers, figuring out how to do it. We had 20% that needed that safety of virtual learning, and we provided that for them, and we had hero teachers figuring that out on the fly and doing a bang-up job. And now, later in the year, we are at about 90% face-to-face and 10%. So that's a great first step that I think is going to put us ahead of the rest of the state and the rest of the nation. But we still have to continue working on that. Second thing I would say is this has been ongoing, and COVID has maybe exacerbated that, is what we call closing the gaps. And it's closing the gaps between our minority subpopulations and our majority. So the African American assessments are lower than the white American assessments, or the Hispanic assessments are lower than the white assessments. And we've got to work on what we have to do to close that gap, not to lower these scores to meet the lower scores, but to get the education, get the help that they need in all these subpopulations to raise them. So we've been working on that. We're committed to that. That's one of our core goals. And then the third thing I would say is just to continue to enhance our, what we call CCMR, which always sounds like, what is it? Creedence Clearwater Revival to me, but that's not what it is. CCMR is college and career readiness, college, career, military readiness. Sorry, I had to work through it in my brain. So that, the vision of AISD is every child prepared for high school and beyond, for beyond high school. So we want them prepared for college, but that's not where everybody needs to be. We want them prepared for military if they're going to go into the military, and we respect and value those that are going into the military to protect our country and protect our freedoms, but also going into the workforce immediately from high school. And one of the things we've done in the last year and even in the last 2 years of the visionary leadership before I was on there is Amtech Career Center. If you see that over the building over that used Some call it the old Sears building. That was before my time. The old Hastings building is more my time. But that is the new Amtech, cutting edge Amtech Career Center that prepares students for things anywhere from medical tech, the medical arts, culinary arts, building, which we need people that know how to build, know how to do car maintenance, know how to do auto tech, body maintenance, all those things. There are 9 different schools with 30 different paths that the whole idea of those is that when they get to the end of those, they'll be certified or ready for advancement in those areas. They'll be certified to go into a pharmacy tech job. So that might be they want to go into pharmacy tech, and that's where they work, or they may go into pharmacy school and support themselves through school and not get into a ton of debt because they can't afford pharmacy school, but they can support themselves. So those are the 3 areas that we will be opening Amtech in the half of Amtech in the fall of 21 and the rest of it in January of 22. And we just have to keep on staffing that and getting that ready because I think that's going to make a big difference, not only for our students, but our community will be so blessed. We need workers in our community. So those are my 3, I guess.
Well, that's a lot.
Yeah, it is. Sorry. I'll talk a lot about this. I'm passionate and I love it.
Well, that's great. So why do you think that the Hispanic and Black students aren't scoring as well? Is it a language issue? Is it a parent issue? What do you think the cause is?
Yes. They are multi-layered and it is complicated because you look in our African-American population, just say them, and our Hispanic population and our Asian population, those are some that are several generation, multi-generation African-American. There are some that are first generation African-American. And so they do have a language issue. And we're dealing with that. We have to have the resources for them. The Asian American population, some of those are first generation Asian Americans that have moved here legally, done the right thing, and they are here and they are part of our community. And the best thing we can do is educate them well. Some of it is family breakdown, and that's across the entire population. A solid home family is paramount to being successful in education. And you can do it without a solid home family. We've seen stories over and over on that, but it sure does help when you have the support of those parents. And just studies have shown the more involved a parent is, not involved like telling teacher what to do, but involved in supporting, the more successful a student is. So that's part of it too, I believe.
So part of it may be working with parents to educate them about things like reading to their kids.
Absolutely.
How important that is.
Absolutely.
Simple things that people can do, that anybody can do, if we can encourage them somehow to do it.
Yeah, and they just may not know.
Yeah.
And again, that's all across the city, but it might be more specific in some of our poorer populations. And some of our poorer populations are working multiple jobs, and so they're not home when their son or daughter gets home. They're not available there. So providing resources for that is so important for us.
Yeah, it's a big challenge. I mean, it
is.
I don't think people really understand how important our teachers are. That's a unique skill set that very few people have, and I think very few people have the capacity to do, and we should appreciate them. And, I think teachers have always traditionally been looked up to. Mm-hmm. They may not realize it, but I think most people always looked up to their teachers.
It's so interesting to me. So 2 things that you said there. First, all of our teachers are heroes. It is so unique. I do mission work for our church. It is so unique to go into schools like Bowie, like Hamlet, like East Ridge Elementary. What was the one I was in just the other day, just north of Plains? I can't remember. Margaret Wills Elementary, where Margaret Wills, maybe 45% of their population, I think, is Asian American. And a lot of those are first generation or second generation Asian American. It's like going to another country sometimes. And those teachers aren't just good teachers. They're great communicators. They're working with they're sometimes working with several different people from different countries of origin. But then we've learned, like, I think it was at Bowie I was at, or Travis. It was Travis I was at last year, where she told me a story of some problems that they were having with some young men in their school. Great guys, but they were having problems with them. They couldn't figure it out. They talked to some of the men of that community. They met with them and talked to them and got to know them and realized that where they came from, there were two different tribes. And one of those tribes, they were the enemies of the other tribes and sometimes enslaved by the other tribes. And so, of course, they're having problems with each other. We just didn't know that. So they're having to figure all that out. They're amazing what they're doing. And many of those teachers, all of our teachers that are worth their salt, it is a calling to them, and they're going to do it. They're going to do it no matter what. Teachers are looked up to, like you said. Like I can talk about a bunch of my teachers from when I was growing up that I did not deserve how nice they treated me, because I was not a very nice student sometimes. But they are also some of the most mistreated people. When it doesn't go my way for my little boy or girl, we tend to take that on our teachers, and they don't always deserve that. So we're there to support them and love them and support them well.
Yeah, I remember when I was in school, we had a teacher, Mr. Owens. And I remember he used to always say, it's not the place, it's the people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I remember that it's all about people in the end. I don't care how much they want to enhance technology and how easy it is to do things over the internet. At the end of the day, it's about people.
100% agree. You know, we started moving January, I think it was, to what we call a one-to-one initiative, where every student, now we've moved to this, and COVID really exposed that we needed this, but we were doing it before. Every student has a Chromebook, and they will, and they need to know that technology. But we are adamant that technology is not a replacement for a live teacher. That teacher people are important. That teacher is the most important. And if we have to choose over technology over teachers, we're choosing teachers every time. And if we have teachers that are depending too much on technology, well, I think we need to correct that. Technology is important to be able to be successful beyond high school, but it is not the way, and it creates so many other problems, that we see in our world.
It just boggles my mind the capacity and the intelligence of these students now.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it's just amazing to me what they know.
What they do, how talented they are, from academics to music. Oh my goodness, I watch these guys in the choral departments. I was at the orchestra contest the other day because that's me. I love those things, so I went to support them. I'm going to a band concert here later tonight at Tascosa High School. I try to make all those, and I'm amazed by how good they are. And I'm teaching some of them, and I'm still like, you're well beyond where I ever was, and my degree's in that. And then in athletics, oh man, we've got so many talented people in our district, and great people too.
Well, that's good. So I hear a lot of people talk, some of these forums and stuff, the term equity comes up.
Mm-hmm.
What is that, and what does it mean when people use that word?
Oh man, I'm going to do a terrible job of trying to explain this, because this has been a learning curve for me too. The picture that helped me see what's talked about when we're talking about equity and providing equity is, I could show it to you, but it's a picture of 3 kids standing outside of a baseball. I think it's a baseball game outside the fence. And there's one that's about this tall. There's one that's middle height, and there's one that's tall enough to see over the fence. And the way they describe that is, so all 3 of those kids are trying to watch the game, and the shortest kid can't see. The middle kid can't see. The tallest kid can see, and that's equality. We're giving them the same opportunity, the exact same opportunity. In equity, we're providing what that kid needs to see the game. So in school equity, we're providing what that kid needs to exceed. And I might need something different than you do. I might need more help with the English language because I'm a first generation learner, or or I didn't have parents that read to me. Might need more. So the rest of that picture, equity, is a stool for that shortest kid to stand on so he can see over, and another stool, a shorter stool, for the middle-sized kid to stand on so he can see over. So all three can get to the thing that we're striving for, is them to see the game. Does that make sense to you? It makes sense in my mind, but sometimes when I explain it.
Yeah, I just think they're using the wrong word. I think it's confusing to people when they use that word. I mean, to me, equity that's a financial term.
Right,
and,
right.
That's the difference in what something's worth and what you owe.
Yeah, yeah.
How does that relate to education? I'm not sure.
No, but that is what they're talking about. And when I use the word equity, that's what I'm talking about. All I'm talking about is providing everybody with what they need to succeed. And it's just different for everybody.
To me, they should say we provide the tools.
No matter what.
No matter what.
Yeah.
We provide the tools they need to succeed. That's
right,
simple.
Right, yeah.
They could come up, I think, if I thought about it for a minute, I bet we could come up with a better
probably
word.
could.
But once something gets started, it's hard to get it stopped.
Yeah. And they become buzzwords, and
I get a little irritated with changing what words mean.
Right.
I don't know where that got started, but all kinds of words that I think mean something, now they mean something different.
Yeah.
And that's how you get miscommunication.
Right.
And that's how you get problems started.
Yeah.
And discord started because they're not explaining things properly to people. I think if people if you explain things to people as to why you're doing it, they're fine with it.
Right.
But if you don't explain it so they understand it, then there's fear and all kinds of problems start coming.
Agreed. We do that in churches all the time. We call it insider language. We'll get up in front of a church and talk about, this. What is it for us? You just need to go down to the garage. If you're one of our student ministry kids, go down to the garage. Well, they don't know what the garage means for visitors, so we need to tell them, oh, that's our youth room. Go down to the youth room. Just call it what it is, Or we use church words that outsiders don't understand, and so education can sometimes do that. This is something I learned in January. I remember going to that first board meeting, and they're talking about SBDMs and DAC and equity and all these words that I can't even think of what are, CCMR and all those initials. And I'm just like writing them down so I can Google them later, and asking somebody else because I'm not sure what it means. But so we get caught in using insiders language, and just like you said, we have to explain it. Just be clear. Yeah.
Well, and that's why we're doing this, so we can get this information out to the voters so they understand what these things mean.
Right.
Because you can have people that take and use that nefariously.
Yes.
And that's not a good thing.
Yeah. Agreed.
So, very good. Well, it sounds like you have a lot going on with what you have planned for the AISD.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell the voters?
Oh, I mean, for me, there's lots of people you can vote for, and I don't know them all on I know the three that I've served, or the two that I've served with, the two incumbents, which is Kayla Mendez and David Nance. And I'll tell you, I have been so impressed with this school board. There are different giftedness. There's different insights. I bring an insight to the fine arts that in my 20 years has not been represented on the school board. And I think that's important, that I can bring that insight knowledge to the fine arts. We have about 15,000 students in our secondary, so middle school and high school. A little over 8,000 of those are involved in the fine arts. So we need somebody sitting on the board that knows that when we make this decision, that nobody else is thinking about how that might affect these 8,000, half of our students, over half of our students. All of our elementary students are involved in the fine arts in some way because they all go to a music class sometimes and an art class. So I have that insight. Kayla has the insight of a much more recent graduate than the rest of us. All right. She's younger. She has a business insight and an engineering insight. David Nance has this building insight. He does a lot of building around town and things that I don't understand, that I lean on him, and et cetera, et cetera. There's lots of just different personalities, different things you can listen to. And I really have enjoyed being on that board and serving in that way. So the others that are running, I only know a couple of them. I know they seem like great people. Mm-hmm. So you might ask, why me? I hate promoting myself, so I would ask the same thing pretty often. But I do think, and this is why I ran for reelection. This is why I want to do this again. I think I bring a peaceful leadership style that is listening, and that's what I've shown in my church leadership over the years. And in the last year that I've been there, I'll listen, and I won't jump to conclusions. I will listen to all sides and I'll weigh them, and that's hard. It's easier to just jump to what you thought first, but it's hard to wrestle with it and really listen to both sides. But I will do that. And I also will ask hard questions. And that's what I'm kind of known for in our leadership at the church is Doyle will always question it. We'll get there, but I want to make sure that we question everything before we get to a decision and make sure that we've considered all the unintended consequences of a decision. In important things. And then, like I said, I do bring that unique view that I've been in the classroom for 10 years. I have a wife that's been in the classroom for 20 years. I have a degree in education. And not only that, I have intimate knowledge of our fine arts and how that affects everything. So, and fine arts are important. And it's not just going out there and singing and playing band. Fine arts, and I can talk about this for days, is directly tied. Participation in fine arts is directly tied to better academic scores. Doesn't make sense. It actually does when you go into science. It connects the left brain to the right brain and all that kind of stuff. But if you look at SAT scores across the state, you'll see that people involved in the fine arts are always doing better. On average, not always, on average doing better than those not involved in the fine arts. So we need to support those fine arts, those 8,000 plus kids that are in the fine arts. So yeah, vote for me.
Do you have a website or anything?
So I have a Facebook page because that's the world we live in right now. It is Corder for AISD, Corder FOR AISD on Facebook, and you can find me there. You can email me at corderforaisd@gmail.com, or you can go to our church website, southwest.org, and you can find me there, or the AISD website. I have an email address on there, Trustee Corder. It's pretty easy to find me. Drive by my office, come by and talk to me. I don't mind. I'll make you a cup of coffee, So
very good. Well, all right. Well, we appreciate you coming by. And
love being here. Thank you. Thank you.